Chapter 1. The Whispering Shadows. The cold wind howled through the narrow streets of Ravenshire as the old clock tower struck midnight. The town lay in silence, save for the rustling of dry leaves and the occasional creak of weathered wooden shutters. A heavy mist crawled over the cobbled pathways, winding its way through the empty alleys like an unseen specter. Amelia Thornwood pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders, her breath visible in the icy air. She had always found comfort in the quiet of the night, but something felt different this time, an unease that prickled at the edges of her consciousness. The gas lamps flickered as she hurried through the streets, her boots echoing against the stones. The old Thornwood manor loomed at the edge of town, a relic of a forgotten era. The towering iron gates groaned as Amelia pushed them open, stepping onto the gravel path that led to the front doors. For years, the house had remained abandoned, yet tonight, a faint glow seeped through the cracks of the heavy oak doors. Hesitated. No one had lived here since her grandfather's disappearance 20 years ago, yet something, or someone, was inside. Swallowing her fear, Amelia reached for the doorknob, its brass surface ice-cold beneath her fingers. The door creaked open, revealing a grand hall lined with portraits of her ancestors, their painted eyes following her every move. The once elegant chandelier dangled precariously from the ceiling, its crystals covered in dust. The scent of old parchment and decaying wood filled the air. A sudden whisper drifted through the hall, soft as a dying breath. Amelia froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. The whisper came again, closer this time. "Who's there?" she called, her voice steady despite the fear creeping up her spine. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity before. The whisper returned, unmistakably near her ear this time. "Welcome home, Amelia." She spun around, but there was no one there, only the cold embrace of the shadows. A shiver ran down Amelia's spine as she backed away from the empty air. Her fingers fumbled for the small lantern hanging by the door. Striking a match, she lit it, casting a warm, flickering glow into the gloom. The shadows danced along the walls, elongating the figures in the portraits, making them appear almost alive. Her grandfather's study was at the end of the hallway. If anything remained of his past, it would be there. Taking a deep breath, she pressed forward, the wooden floorboards groaning beneath her weight. The air grew heavier, thick with the scent of something unfamiliar, something metallic. Reaching the study door, she hesitated once more. Her grandfather's name, Elias Thornwood, was etched into the brass plate above the keyhole. She placed her hand on the knob, bracing herself for what lay beyond. The door swung open with surprising ease. Inside, the room was eerily untouched, as if time itself had paused. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with tomes bound in leather and gold leaf. The massive mahogany desk at the center was covered in yellowed papers, a quill resting atop one as though waiting to be used again. But Amelia's breath caught in her throat when she saw the chair behind the desk. It was turned away from her, facing the window. And though the room had been silent moments before, she could hear the unmistakable sound of breathing. Someone was sitting there. The lantern in her grasp trembled as she stepped forward. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. Slowly, the chair creaked as it turned to face her. Amelia's heart pounded as she saw what, or who, sat before her. It was her grandfather. But he had been missing for 20 years, and his eyes, they were completely black. Amelia stumbled back, knocking over a stack of books. The noise echoed in the suffocating silence, but the figure before her did not move. He simply sat there, his hollow gaze fixed on her. "Grandfather," she whispered, unsure if she wanted an answer. The corners of his mouth twitched, as if attempting a smile, but the expression never fully formed. "You shouldn't have come back," he murmured, his voice dry and brittle like old parchment. Amelia's grip tightened around the lantern. "Where have you been? What happened to you?" He let out a slow, rattling breath. "They took me, beyond the veil," he said, his fingers twitching against the desk. "And now, they know you are here." The temperature in the room plummeted. The flames of the lantern flickered wildly, casting erratic shadows along the walls. Amelia turned sharply as a low whispering filled the air, no longer singular but many, dozens of voices overlapping in an eerie, unintelligible chorus. Panic surged through her veins. "Who are they?" Her grandfather's blackened eyes locked onto hers. "Run," he said, his voice no longer his own. "Before it's too late." The whispering grew into a deafening cacophony. The lantern's flame snuffed out. And then, from the depths of the darkness, something moved.